it was just like, it was such a hard time. We lost like everything. Like it got to the point where we were living on ramen noodles for like breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Gosh.
So it was like a really, really hard time. I was almost 4. And it's so weird because like those traumatic things like will stick with you.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Kick Your Boots Up podcast. We're so excited to be here with Ruby Leigh. We got to learn more about her, but before we do, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and share button. Share with all your friends. Tell us where and when you heard this episode. Be sure to give us some feedback, too. We want to hear from you. This girl needs no introduction. Her reputation precedes her. She's so young, but has such a good degree of information. She's a wealth of so many titles. You've done so many things starting at the age of, oh my goodness, 6? As soon as you could start singing, you were singing. So I'm just going to go through a little bit of some of the things that she got to do recently. She was on season 24 of The Voice on Team Reba, which you guys know is one of our girls as well. We love Reba. We love everything she does, including the line that we have here at Justin. So that's a really cool tie-in as well. She's from Foley, Missouri, which I thought had 96 people, but you said it's 68 people, a small, tiny town. I love the humor that her and her sister have about it all. And the biggest thing to note here is Ruby Leigh is 16 years old. So Ruby Leigh, thank you for being here. We appreciate you taking the time before your show to get to know us a little bit better and for us to get to know you and share your story. Did you have to skip school to be here? I know you're homeschooled, but...
Yeah, no, I didn't.
That's good. You got all your work done. You got it all figured out. And you actually got to we're going to do a gig. And so we booked you. We love it. Everyone here has been talking about you. I hope you know that. No pressure. Everyone's like, okay, so when's Ruby Leigh going to be here? Not the fact like we're having a party or we're going to give them free food. They're like, Ruby Leigh? How does that make you feel at 16 years old that everyone, like grown men are here? Or, like everyone is here to see you.
I love it. I am super excited and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's just really cool that people know who I am now. It's really cool.
Okay, so it's funny that you mentioned that. Then let's talk about that a little bit because you truly went from one of the 68 people in Foley, Missouri to now a household name. Everyone talks about you. Reba knows you. Niall knows you. John knows you. All these people, they now know who Ruby Leigh is. And what is that like for you? Literally, you went from 68 people to big stages.
It's quite incredible. I like walking out on the stage, just knowing like Reba McEntire's there and like John Legend and Niall. It's just like super amazing. I was always like super excited, like, oh my gosh, like the crowd, it's like I always made it a point to like perform for, not only the people watching through TV, like the crowd and, the coaches. So
yeah.
It was just amazing. Such a wonderful experience.
Wonderful experience for a 16-year-old at that, too. I know several people that have like tried to get to The Voice or they've made it through some of the prelims or whatever and never made it to the big stage. So I got to commend you. And I know we'll get into that more a little bit when we talk more about The Voice. But I want to know you because you have such a cool relationship with your family. Your mom and dad are behind the scenes doing what they do. They got to be on The Voice as well, doing all the talking with they got to meet all the people that you got to meet. And they're not only your biggest fans, but they're now becoming a little bit of your managers or maybe your momager, dadager, as we would say, along with your family. Did I say that right? Family. Okay, yes. So they're part of that. They're leading the nation there. And then your sister handling your merch and all of that. What's the family element like for that? Having everyone along on the road with you.
It's amazing, especially being on the show. Like my sister is like the biggest Gwen Stefani fan.
Yeah, I saw that. She was so like, ah.
I know. I was like, you know what? Her being there, I was like, the only thing I want is just I really want her to meet her because, like Gwen is so amazing.
Yeah.
It was just such a wonderful experience and my family's so supportive. Like they've been supporting me since the very beginning, probably even before it's really like hard to explain, like they believe in me from like very like day one. And, I remember when I was 9 years old, when I started singing, I told my dad, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to be a singer. And I don't think my dad believed me at that point, but I think he does now. But
oh, for sure. And he did deep down. As your dad, he was probably like, okay, we need to get this girl some voice lessons or something. So, that's really cool too. I love that. I used to say, I grew up in the era of Hannah Montana. Do you even know Hannah? Okay. Well, that's good. I love how versed you are on the musicians, but I would put on concerts, like, especially in the shower, but more specifically in the yard. And I would have choreographed backup dancers that didn't exist, but they were like there,
Yeah.
And so I relate to you so much, even though there's a huge difference. I don't sing and you do. So if anyone heard me, they would be like, that, I don't know. But anyway, moving on to that. I saw in a live recently that you guys were just literally sitting in the car. You're talking to all your fans. People are interacting. They're asking you questions. Are you coming to this state? Are you coming to here? At 16 years old, is that hard to keep up with, hard to process, hard to move through? That so many people are asking so many things of you and you're like, I don't even know what I'm going to eat for lunch right now.
Exactly. Yeah. It's definitely different. It's like one of those, like, it's such a weird feeling, like going live, and like there's so many people from all these different states that like know who I am and they want me to come there, like they want to see me. It's shocking and really cool. At the same time, it's like I'm still getting used to it. I mean, it's only been like a month since the last episode aired.
I know. It's all still so new and fresh. And it probably feels like a dream still.
Yeah,
kind of like,
it totally does.
Yeah, like when you woke up the next day, you're probably like, what the heck is going on? But along those same lines, there were so many people there that were in the audience cheering you on. But the one specific person I have a question about at The Voice was Carson Daly. Did you get to hang out with him much at all? Was he fun? Was he...
I mean, yeah, I met him a few times. I mean, obviously, like, after the rounds, he'd be there.
Yeah.
He's pretty cool.
That's
very,
cool.
Very calm.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I kind of seemed him as like, super energetic or whatever. So that's cool. That's cool. And then I have another question too, because Gwen and Blake are together, obviously. Was Blake ever there? Did you get to meet Blake as well?
I did not. No.
Dang. That's okay. Another day. I'm from Oklahoma. He's a fellow Okie, so I just assumed like, oh, that's cool. But what did it feel like for you then to have, Niall Horan, like, he told you, I wanna get the words right. So let me find it really quick, because he had like the most cool quote. He said, "You're from a different planet." Like, he's fun and different anyway, but like, what did that mean? Because like, that's just got to be so cool. I wish you could frame that, right? Like,
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, me growing up, before I found country, I was like the biggest One Direction fan you've ever seen. I was like, I loved One Direction, and going there, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, this is Niall Horan. And being backstage, like after my knockout performance, he came out like arms wide open. He's like, Ruby, I'm such a huge fan. I'm like, I feel like we should be switching spots. I'm like, this doesn't seem real. He was like my biggest cheerleader on the show. He was just so amazing. Like I was telling people, I'm like, I don't think he would have cared either way who won.
Yeah.
He's just so proud of everyone.
Yeah.
He was just really, really cool. And yeah, he was like my biggest cheerleader on the show throughout the entire time.
That is so awesome to hear, because you got to work with so many people, and to have him kind of take you on as like that big brother role, I think that's like super cool and sets you apart. But one thing too that I think sets you apart from all the rest is I saw a video, and of course I creeped you because I was like, I want to know. At 13 years old, you were probably in a bar or dance hall or something, and you sang the song "Shallow."
Oh yeah.
Do you remember this performance that I'm talking about? Probably not. Because you sang it so many times, but the way you belted out like that, I was like, at 13 years old, I can't imagine what you could do now, and then now I do know what you can do now. That's just so mind-boggling to me.
Thank you.
But I do want to kind of get back into the voice questions, and really, you had a lot of different song choices. Like your first one you sang was "Cowboy Sweetheart." How did you pick that song specifically? Did you know that was like yodeling was the move for you?
Yodeling is something that I definitely wanted to do on the show because I feel like it showcases who I am a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And the song is by Patsy Montana. Her real name is Ruby Blevins. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, that's a really cool connection.
Ruby.
Yeah. And she was the first woman to ever sell 1 million records, and it was with that song. So I was like, you know what? It's got yodeling. Like, we have the connection there. I was like, I just really want to do the song, and I didn't know if it was the right move or not. Like going into it, I was like, will anybody turn? I thought my only shot was Reba.
Yeah. It makes sense. It like your brands align. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, one person got it.
Yeah, and then when John turned first, I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, Reba didn't turn until you started yodeling.
Yeah.
Which I was like, okay, that means she respects you even more, though, too. She really took the time to listen to see if you could hit the notes.
She told me after that, actually, they didn't air it, but she told me, you know, I waited so long because when you started off so high, I just knew that you were going to fall apart because it only gets higher. So she said, I waited because I wanted to hear that. And she said, as soon as you didn't fall apart, that's when I hit my button.
Wow.
So it was really just a really cool moment.
Then, because it was like literally, John turned first, and then immediately they were like, boom, 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 boom. How did you keep singing whenever they were turning?
You know what? It's so crazy. A lot of people like the TV show magic.
Of course, yeah. Right now, what are you talking about? No, I'm just kidding.
But I mean, like the buttons don't do anything. Like you don't hear them turn around.
Stop it.
I know.
It's all added in post.
Yeah.
Now we know.
You're welcome,
Dang.
guys.
Thank you.
But so they didn't tell me that. So like when John turned first, I was looking at Reba's chair, because I'm like, is Reba gonna turn or not? Because like I thought
you cared about her.
Yeah, it's like I figured she was my only shot, like the only person that would turn for me. And then when John turned, like I saw it out of the corner of my eye, his like chair lit up and then turned, and I was like, oh my gosh! I'm like, you're a team legend, I guess.
Okay.
And then Reba turned around. Before Reba turned in my mind, after John turned, I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, team legend. And I was like, but Reba didn't turn. And she's in your genre. She thinks you're horrible. And then she turned. And that's why I smiled so big. Everyone talks about how I smiled and nodded.
You lit up.
Yeah. So, it wasn't like I went in like knowing that Reba was my pick.
Yeah.
I just thought that she was the only one that was going to turn for me.
Right. Business-wise, it makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah. So, like us being country, I figured, obviously I'm like, maybe Reba.
Yeah.
But, yeah, honestly, it was a hard decision because, they were fighting really hard. And I was like, I love Reba, but I'm like, I need someone that really wants me. I need to know that they want me. And then Reba used her trick, which was the fake hair. And
that was like, awesome, by the way. I'm like, how could you say no?
Yeah, I'm like, I have to pick Reba. So obviously I picked Reba, and we went pretty far.
Oh, yeah, you did. Then there's a lot to unpack there, but before we do, I've got to get back to one more thing because...
Hey, it's Reba McEntire. The Justin Cowboy Crisis Fund has been crucial to the rodeo community for more than 30 years. Over $9 million has been awarded to the rodeo athletes and their families so far. I love that 100% of every dollar you and I contribute to the Justin Cowboy Crisis Fund goes directly to those injured cowboys, cowgirls, and their families. So please donate today at justincowboycrisisfund.org. We really appreciate it.
The second that it was all over, I kind of have a two-parter here. The first part is, did it really take a long time? Like, did it take longer than the TV made it seem for them to pick? Because on TV, it seemed fairly fast. It was like, or for you to pick, it seemed fairly fast. Was it like 30 minutes? How long was it in real life?
For my audition, I was on stage for over an hour.
Oh, wow.
And that's all of the coaches talking. I sang a second song for Reba. I mean, Niall asked, actually. Niall was like, do you sing any Reba songs? I'm like, that's funny. I'm like, yeah, I do, actually. And then Reba was like, well, let it rip. And I'm like, okay. So I sang a second song for Reba. And, it was a long time. That's why it was so hard for me to pick. Like, they only air like 5 minutes. But all of that time, I was like, oh my gosh.
Did you truly go back and forth?
I really did.
You really did.
At the very end, like I was like, obviously you have to like narrow it down. Like who really wants to help me? Right?
Yeah. How could you do the best? How could you succeed the most?
Exactly. So like I was really looking between Niall and Reba. I was very close to picking Niall at one point. And then obviously Reba used her trick because the whole time she was like sitting there just smiling at me, and I was like banging on the chair, like
being dramatic. You're right.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, maybe Niall wants me more.
Yeah.
Because in my mind I'm like, I can't just pick Reba just because I'm country.
You're exactly right. Good for you at 16 to know that. Honestly.
I mean, it was definitely a hard decision. Yeah. But obviously, like when she used her trick, I'm like, I have to go for it.
Okay. And then, so that was the first part. My second part to that was, one thing that stood out to me was Gwen was yodeling. At one point, things got really crazy for you, Ruby Lee. Like, Gwen Stefani, the Holla Back girl, the girl that I know, she was yodeling for you. That was so cool. And then Reba yodeled. Did you guys ever get a chance to, like, have a moment of yodeling? Did you ever have, like, behind the scenes, like, you, Gwen, Reba, yodeling? If not, let's make it happen.
A trio. Me and Reba yodeled together.
Did you?
I didn't get a chance to with Gwen because obviously, like, you know, they all the days that they do it, it's like separate days.
Okay.
So it's like maybe like Niall and Reba's team will be on one day, and then Gwen and John. So like you don't see them all.
Oh, you didn't get that as much intimate interaction.
I mean, I did get to see them, like, obviously after the performance they come through backstage, and
Right.
we're all sitting back there.
Yeah.
So I did get to see them a lot after performances, and that's where I met most of them. But obviously, like, rehearsals with Reba, sometimes, like, Niall would be there. Usually it was Reba and Gwen, you know, and I've seen Gwen a few times. She actually said in an interview with Entertainment Tonight that I was her favorite on the show. I was like, whoa.
Oh,
It was crazy.
My gosh.
I know.
Another moment that if we could frame sound bites and put them on the wall, that's exactly, wow.
It was insane. John said the same thing. He didn't say it in an interview, but him and Gwen told me behind the scenes. I'm like, that's really cool. And then my sister sent me this. She was like, oh my gosh, did you see this? I'm like, no, what is this? So she sent me this clip, and it's Gwen talking on like this huge, like, you know, news platform and saying that I'm her favorite. And she still had her whole team. I was like, that's insane.
That is, yeah, that's truly insane. And I think it's worth mentioning, I know this wasn't in a rehearsal, but you mentioned rehearsing with Reba and all that. One of your coaches one week was Wynonna Judd. And girl, I love me some Wynonna. The Judds, I grew up listening to them. My parents did too. What was Wynonna like? Because she really took, what I thought was cool was she took like a special interest in you. She maybe felt like, saw you as a daughter figure or sister figure or something. So what just tell us about that moment and like, what it was like getting constructive criticism, because a lot of people don't like that either. Like a lot of people don't want to do better. And so for you were like, okay, I'll go higher, I'll go lower, I'll do that. Because she wanted you to sound like professional and real because she knew you could do it. She knew you had it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like, obviously, you don't know who it is. They don't tell you beforehand. Like, they literally...
Really?
No. Like, you have no idea who it is.
Oh my gosh. So when you walked in, it was really actually a shock the way you reacted.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And, you know, like... Obviously, I was sitting back there, and I'm like, who is it? I'm like, I hope it's someone I know. Like, I don't want to walk in and be like...
Could you imagine?
Yeah, like someone, I'm like, hi.
Do you want me to sing one of your songs? Good, let me Google it really quick. That would be...
Like, what's your name? Do you play any? It's like, yeah. So I was like, oh my gosh, I hope it's someone I know. And then when I walked in, I was like, so loud. I'm like, Wynonna. I'm like, oh my gosh. You screamed it out. It was so embarrassing.
One of the other redheaded queens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was like a lot of like the country people on the show didn't know who it was. And I'm like,
okay, first of all, disappointment. I'm disappointed. No.
I know. I was like, how do you not know who Wynonna Judd is?
I know, right?
I'm like, the Judds. I'm like, they're so iconic. Yeah, so it was especially cool for me. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like Reba and Wynonna. And then obviously for the top 12, they had Chance the Rapper and Reba.
Oh, yeah.
So like when I walked in, I'm like,
what an interesting
duo
situation we have going on. Yeah.
I walked in, I'm like, you really don't expect that.
No.
But yeah, he was awesome too. He was really, really cool. Yeah, but it was just like a great time. Like I was just like expecting like, who's it gonna be?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're almost out of time, but I do have to ask you, 1 week, there towards the end, you sang Long, Long Time. And I love that they did your makeup. They made it look like you had teardrops, you know, with the rhinestones or whatever. Yep. How did you channel such hurt or like such a sad emotion and then like still sing and still handle all the pressure too? Because that's hard. Like 16, you know, I'm not discounting anything you've experienced, but you haven't had a lot of like true heartbreak from boys, even if you have, you know, so how did you channel that?
You know, also first thing about the makeup, that was my idea. They weren't going to do it. And, you know, they put it on and, you know, the lady was like, you know, I don't know if they'll clear this for the show. And I'm like,
oh,
please do. And they did. And I was like, oh, yeah. So, anyway, long story short, you know, doing the song, I was in a tornado when I was younger. And, you know, like there was a lot of like emotional like pain that came with that.
Wow.
You know, it was just like, it was such a hard time. We lost like everything. Like it got to the point where we were living on ramen noodles for like breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Gosh.
So it was like a really, really hard time. I was almost 4. And it's so weird because like those traumatic things like will stick with you. Like
yeah.
You'll forget so many like great things that have happened, but like anything that's traumatic, like you'll always remember that. And, you know, like going through with like these sad songs, I was like, I have to like dig deep and like channel something like that, you know? Even though like I haven't like been through a heartbreak or something like that.
Yeah.
I was just like, you got to connect with the feelings that you had to really sell the song, because, you know, a lot of people don't think about it, but being a musician, you're also an actor.
Yeah.
Because you can't get up there and like smile and sing Blue, because then they're going to be like, she's just singing
That
the
doesn't
song.
line up.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Well, you're a performer for a reason. You perform. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really like a musical, I guess. It's just it's like this acting. So I think I did really well with the Long Long Time. That was like
You did.
a lot of people's favorites. That and Cowboy Sweetheart, obviously.
Of course. Beginning it, you like really went in with a bang, went out with a bang. It was great.
Yeah. I mean, it was really, really cool. I had a great time with the show.
No, it looked like it too. Like you truly were like living in every moment, all of it. And I know like I said, almost out of time, unfortunately. But the last question I want to ask, I always ask someone on this podcast, what's your best piece of advice for whatever. But what's your best piece of advice for someone that's going to go through a TV show like that? Because like I said, there's all kinds of shows out there. There's American Idol, The Voice, all of them. And you have to go through a strenuous process to get to TV. And a lot of people don't know that. It's like dedication. You have to make the cut. So what's your best piece of advice there?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people think that you just audition and then they call and they're like, hey, you made it on the show.
You won $1 million.
Yeah, exactly. So like going through and doing the audition process, like how long it is I sent in my first video audition in November, and I was on stage for my actual blind performance. That was in June. So all of those months is all casting, all cuts. Even being flown out for the show, you're there for 2 months and you're not promised an audition. Like you can be cut being there.
Wow.
Like on the day that they tell you you're gonna perform, they can be like, sorry, we don't have room for you, try it next season. Like I had friends next to me that they did that too, and I'm like, oh my gosh, are they going down the line? Am I next? So I would just say like be yourself. Definitely. I mean, there's a lot of like stress with being on a show like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, there's a lot of like great memories to be made being on the show, but like, you know, sometimes there can be drama. You know, obviously, it's a competition show.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I mean,
you want some drama. You want some like competition.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, just like work hard, do whatever your coach tells you to do. You know, that was one thing that I like really like paid attention to. Anything that Reba had to say, I'm just like, I'll do that. So yeah, just be yourself and do what you want to do.
That is so wise for 16 years old. Truly, I'm like, I need to take some of that advice, not for the musical shows, but just in life. Like, things happen. People get fired, you know, all this stuff. Like, you just got to take it and leave it and love and be yourself. And that was so good. And I want to say, too, thank you for being yourself on stage and in person. Your style got to show through on the stage. Your style shines through now. Keep it up, girlfriend. You are going to big places. And I am humbled and honored to be sitting right next to you. So thank you, Ruby Leigh. You're gonna crush it one day. You're already crushing it now. And I know you have to go get ready for your performance tonight. So thank you again. We really appreciate it.
Oh, no, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And if you guys want to check out her social media, follow her on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all the places you want to. TikTok. She's a TikToker. Ruby Leigh Official is where you'll find her. Go feel free to ask her some questions. She's really good about answering questions the best she can. Her and her family rock. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to do that. Like, subscribe to this podcast, share with your friends. We love you, and thank you for kicking up your boots. See you next time. Thanks for joining us on Kick Your Boots Up. I'm your host, Taylor McAdams, and we can't wait to share the next story of the West. Until then, feel free to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. Follow us on social media at Justin Boots to keep up with our next episode. And we'll see you the next time you kick your boots up.